Well, it just came out that that terrible murderer that killed 26 Christians in that Baptist church in South Texas was an atheist. You know, when I first heard about the shooting, the first thing Sonia and I did, we started to pray for the victims and pray for those that are hurting and praying for wisdom to the law enforcement officers, doctors, and all of that. But after we finished praying, we started talking, well, who do you think it was? You know how all of us, we start to speculate? I told my wife, I said, I don't think this is a Muslim this time because most Muslims don't live in country towns. But I said, if I was to guess, I would say it was an atheist or at least someone who hated Christians. That was just, to me, an obvious choice. And now it's come out that this killer was an atheist. Now, I know some of you atheists are saying, oh, wait a minute, you're going to try to lump us atheists with this terrible mass murder? No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. Although I will say this, you atheists have been very good at trying to lump all religious fanatics who go out and kill people, and you try to lump them with Christians. You know, some radical Muslim kills somebody, you say, well, they're no more different than these radical Christians, you know. Sooner or later, it will be Christians doing it. Well, and I've heard that. But no, I'm not going to talk about that aspect, all right? Because I don't think that would be fair to the ordinary atheist. But let me just say something about atheism, and that is, it is completely bankrupt philosophy. I know that firsthand because the two most important men in my life were my grandfather and my dad, and both of them were devout atheists. And when I came to the Lord, I remember how my dad made fun of my faith. He thought I would grow out of it, and he just, you know, had a very negative thoughts about it. And even my grandfather, when I tell him about Jesus, he would make fun of that too. And here's the thing, these two men, though I love them, I mean, they're my dad, they're my grandfather, I did not really have a respect for the way they lived. I respected them as my seniors, no doubt, but not the way they lived, because these people, these two men were not very good people. They were not kind. They were rough. They were not what we would call loving, good, and kind people. So my firsthand experience with atheists is not very good. It wasn't until I brought my grandfather to the Lord that I got to see the goodness that God could do in his life. And I remember when he accepted the Lord and he was coming to understand and believe in God and Jesus, for the first time he picked up the phone and started calling his daughters. He had 8 daughters, and he called them and said, can you pick me up? I want to spend time with you. And they thought, you know, Grandpa never wanted to spend time with us. He just let us be on our own. He never really was like a father spending time. But now when he's thinking about Jesus, he's what he's doing, his heart's being changed to be a good and kind person. And when he would get to the house, one of my aunts told me when we picked him up and we would bring him to the house, all he wanted to do was talk about Jesus. And when he talked about God and Jesus, he'd start to cry. And he would talk about how you're talking to him about Jesus and that it's touching him. And they saw something in Grandpa that they had never seen before. His atheism never produced a good father. It never produced one who wanted to spend time with his family. Didn't produce kindness and goodness. But now my grandfather's coming to Jesus, and because of it, his heart is being changed, and he's coming to see something about God and his goodness. So I saw a wonderful change in my grandfather when he really started contemplating Jesus. And of course I got to lead him to Jesus, and there was a peace about him that he never had beforehand. So listen, the reason why I talk a lot about atheism is because I saw the absolute bankruptcy of atheism, that it's no good. It doesn't produce a godly life, and there's so many reasons why it can't. First of all, without a belief in God, then the person becomes the center of their own universe. You understand? So that basically is, you know, selfishness. And then secondly, there's no fear of God. So they can do whatever they want. They might fear the government and fear police officers and fear, you know, getting caught and breaking the law, but they don't have this internal fear of God. And you know, that internal fear of God leads us to do the right thing oftentimes when no one is watching us. Let me illustrate it this way to you atheists. I have such a love for you. I have a compassion for you. That's why I speak a lot on atheism. But imagine two atheists. One is not two atheists. Imagine one who's a committed atheist and another committed Christian. This committed Christian, you know, she's a teenager. She always goes to church on Sunday, Bible study. She volunteers to do charity work. She's made a promise to God. She's going to remain a virgin until she gets married. She really loves the Lord and wants to live for him. Then there's another guy. He's a teenager. He's a devout atheist. And he ridicules Christians. He thinks this whole idea of Christianity is just a fairy tale. He makes fun. He thinks he's smarter than everyone. He's outgrown this kind of belief in God. And so, as a result, he's a bit sarcastic, a bit rude. And to him, this idea of purity ring, no, man, that's Victorian ideas. He doesn't mind sleeping around with women if they'll let him. You know, he has no really sense of inner right and wrong. Now, he's a good student in school. He tries to get good grades, but he's a committed atheist. Now, let me ask you, you need someone to babysit your child. Who are you going to pick? The devout Christian or the devout atheist? In the end, even you atheists would say, I have to be honest, I'd pick that Christian girl. I trust her more. I'm giving you an illustration because there is something innate in us. We know that atheism doesn't work. It doesn't produce the good and moral life that we know we want to have in our life. And so right now, I do plead with you all to be praying for the victims in South Texas. They're hurting. There's no doubt about it. But I also want to use this as an opportunity to reach out to my atheist friends and to say to them, listen, I don't blame you for that murder, but I'm here to tell you, atheism by and large just doesn't work. It doesn't produce the kind of life that I know God can produce in you if you will only surrender your life to Jesus. So I ask you, my atheist friend, surrender your life to Jesus.